in John McNamara. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs, Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. John, I'd like to get your opinion and your insight as to where that legislation is, and can a compromise be made at all?
I think you summarized it pretty well. It's at the point now where it was bipartisan on the committee. The political will seems to be there, but there's a few sticking points left. But the long and short of it is that these businesses need to know that if they're following the rules, that they can't be punished. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Negotiations are ongoing. They're wrapping up session here. They're here today, and they might be here one day next week, but then they're all going to go on break and try and get reelected or try and get their colleagues reelected. So then they're really not going to be here for just over a month. So, maybe during that month, the logjam can be broken. But, this is a top priority for us. It's a top priority really for all the business groups in Michigan.
So for those that want to support this effort, what can they do to try to show support?
I think they can always call their state senator or their state representative or the governor and just say, we believe this is good public policy. We believe this is needed in order to allow businesses to, make it through this and thrive again one day. As long as they're following the rules, we think they should be protected. And we also feel if they're not following the rules, if there are bad actors, then, there should be consequences for that. But right now, for the most part, everyone's doing the best that they can. And we don't believe that there should be, undue punishment because of that.
The hospitality and restaurant industry has been one of the hardest hit during this pandemic. It's about $8 billion lost since March 16th. That is a lot of money. And you wonder if this continues to go on, how long can some of these businesses survive, especially the restaurants going into the winter months?
So yeah, we've luckily about the only thing that's gone right for the hospitality industry in 2020 was the great weather we had. I mean, we really did have a fantastic summer in terms of weather, and people were able to be outside and socially distant. And it looks like maybe for a couple more weeks, this weather's going to hang on, but sooner than later, it's, the days are going to start getting shorter and it's just going to start getting colder. And essentially, we'll be back at 50% without the options for outdoors. We're working with the legislature and the governor's office and the Liquor Control Commission on some potential ways to winterize patios so they can still still sort of be outside but be closed. We're also working on increasing indoor capacity if we see positive test rates of 3% or less. So we're working with it, but right now we have some numbers that suggest if we go to inside at 50% and there's no winterization, there's no increased capacity, we'll lose approximately 5,000 restaurants.
John McNamara with us. He is the Vice President of Government Affairs at the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. So as these businesses are preparing for those cold months and trying to put some sort of plans in place to maybe present to their local municipalities about options that they could have, what are these restaurants considering to be able to counteract the cold and maybe create secondary environments that allow them to still have that increased capacity similar to what they have now with outdoor seating?
Sure. So we're seeing a lot of people considering, getting a tent and putting in their parking lot if that's available. The problem with some of those is that a lot of these patios, move on to city streets, and that, you get, sort of have issues there. We're also seeing people who are considering, sort of putting temporary walls up and temporarily enclosing their patio and making sure there's a separation between their restaurant, their current indoor space, and what would be a temporary indoor space. And then, some people who are potentially making that really tough decision that if they can't enclose for the winter, potentially shutting down for a few months and hoping they can make it through, maybe another round of paycheck protection comes through, or maybe some other federal assistance come through. But lots of uncertainty right now for our members and anyone in the hospitality industry.
I would imagine adding to the confusion and so much of all of this is every local municipality has different rules and different regulations, so it makes it kind of hard to navigate.
Yeah, so the city of Birmingham was the first to and they were very proactive, and we appreciate that in allowing this to happen. And we have some of our members who have applied and they're going through that process. But you're absolutely correct. Every local municipality has a different take on what should be allowed and what can be allowed and how it can be done. So something we're working through, and we're hoping that if the governor's office and the Liquor Control Commission will essentially presumptively approve anyone who has a currently approved patio to winterize it, that will help with some of the local issues. But that is still working toward that, and still very good conversations going on.
Well, things don't seem to be moving too quickly in Lansing or even in D.C., other than our budget. They did get the budget approved, which is kind of a miracle in itself without a lot of back and forth. So we're looking at the weather is going to start turning in the next couple weeks. And while fall time is a great time, if they don't make a decision on this before the winter season, could it be devastating for your industry?
It absolutely could. And luckily, a lot of the things that, can help and would help, we do not need legislative approval for. They can be done either largely by executive order, and the MLCC can help as well. I mean, the legislature has been a ready and willing partner, and they will continue to be. But, some of these things can be done quickly, literally with the swipe of a pen. So while they'll be out working hard to get themselves reelected or their colleagues reelected on the campaign trail, there's still plenty of work that can be done when they're not here. And I agree, at the federal level, they keep going back and forth on another stimulus package. I'd be pretty surprised if it gets done before the election. They're going to do a continuing resolution and leave town as well. But do want to throw in there that $15 million did make it in the state budget for the Pure Michigan campaign, and $28 million made it in for the Going Pro campaign. So two things that are great for the hospitality industry and the state as a whole that we're in that state budget that we expect Governor Whitmer to sign here in the next couple days.
John McNamara with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. And John, you look at some of these businesses, I will say it's probably a good time to be one of the companies that does make those igloos or outdoor heaters. I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of companies and a lot of restaurants wanting to purchase those types of items. However, these businesses are already losing money. How much more can they continue to invest in things such as that without more help from the government?
I mean, a lot of that will depend on how long they've been around. We have members who already do that. A problem we're seeing more than that is the supply just isn't there. People were never expecting that they'd be putting up multiple igloos or buying multiple heaters or, trying to buy or rent tents. And, we're already seeing members who are reaching out to us saying, I've called everyone I know and everyone I've Googled, and they say that they don't have any. So it's going to be a supply problem as well. Even if they're allowed to do it, there'll be some who can't, simply because the equipment or materials just aren't there.
Can we shift a little bit to go to the issue of employees? Is it
Absolutely.
getting any better now when the $600 of the federal stimulus went away? It seemed like some employees were willing to come back to work, but now there's the additional $300 from the feds as well. So what is the employee situation looking like on the forefront for so many of these industries?
It's slightly better. It's still not great. We still have a lot of owner operators who are, cleaning the hotel rooms and who are running the dish tank and who are working the line simply because they're not seeing people come back to work. It's also been a great opportunity for some people who want to work and, are getting those hours and getting more experience. But, if you walk into most restaurants, you'll see a now hiring sign. And if you, talk to the manager and say, I want a job, there's a good chance you'll walk out, with a uniform in your hand if you're looking for work. But still a massive problem for the industry of getting people to return to work. Because a lot of people are banking on a second stimulus. They're saying, if I can make it through and there's a second stimulus, I don't want to go to work. You're seeing a lot of people who are making more money on unemployment than they would be going to work.
Yeah, because I would imagine if you do work in, let's say, a hotel or a restaurant, you do rely on those tips. And if you can only have a certain capacity, the tip money's not going to be there. So
Yep.
they don't want to necessarily go back to work just from that standpoint as well.
Yeah, and we're seeing, still seeing people are still somewhat hesitant to walk into a restaurant. So even if we see still some places that are at 20% capacity, even though they can be up to 50. There's just the clientele isn't there. Hopefully, maybe with football coming back, we'll see some more people who go out and get together to watch games and do it in a safe and responsible manner. But the comeback is far from over for this industry. I think some of the harder days are going to be ahead through this winter. So hopefully, as many as possible can get to spring.
I always get confused too. We're seeing in the headlines where just recently there were 3 bars on the western part of the state that lost their liquor license for COVID-19 violations. They came out and said, hey, we're going to have an ambassador program where ambassadors are going to go in and check for these violations. But then you also have Lara, Myosha, your state or your local health department. Who is responsible? Or is it just a hodgepodge of all these different agencies doing these compliance checks?
It largely comes down to local health, but it can also be, MLCC at any time can walk in and do a spot check. They have been. But for the most part, MLCC, if the violations have been minimal or, people have been doing their best, MLCC has been simply saying, hey, here's what you need to do to be in compliance. Here's what you need to do to be better. So for MLCC to pull a license right now, those violations were quite egregious. And my guess is they've probably been warned before and simply didn't listen. But, MLCC almost immediately when this happened has been a wonderful partner, has taken swift dynamic action, and has some of the actions they've taken have made the difference for some of these businesses to keep their doors open.
John McNamara with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. He is the Vice President of Government Affairs at the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association, joining us on the MegaCast. So with all of this in mind, what is your organization telling these restaurants and these other businesses and suggesting to them in terms of what they can do to prepare for these checks, to work through issues that may arise or may be pointed out to them on these checks, to avoid those kinds of situations where their liquor licenses or their businesses could be in jeopardy because of violations?
So yeah, we have provided them, we did a reopening guide, and we have multiple things that are all on our website for anyone to go check out where, this is what you need to do to be in compliance. I probably get 5 or 6 phone calls a day from members saying, hey, this happened, or hey, I want to do this, can I? So luckily our members are being very proactive as they were before this in order to, protect the public and do the right thing. And then in terms of surviving it, we launched our Don't Leave Michigan's Hospitality Industry Out in the Cold campaign recently with sort of a list of asks and requests of the legislature and of the governor's office and the Liquor Control Commission of this is what we need to survive. And it's survive. It's not get rich. It's not make money. It's make it to April. It's make it to the spring when hopefully, again, we have a vaccine and people can be out, it's tenable to be outside for extended periods of time.
So, John, we've heard a lot about efforts that are being done to prevent eviction from homeowners and renters. Is there any such talk or program to try to help business owners?
Unfortunately, no. We have made that request, and we're not the only one. All the other business groups have as well. However, it seems right now that, it's not, it's not something that's going to happen. And there was a bill that was passed that would have allowed for property taxes payments to be delayed over a 6-month period. They could have, paid it incrementally. And unfortunately, that was vetoed by Governor Whitmer. So we're having a lot of people call us right now and say, I don't have the money. I was shut down, for a couple months and I'm at limited capacity. How can I be expected to pay full freight? So just one of the many struggles that this industry will face, and our members will get through and figure it out. But, I can't say it enough. The comeback is far from over for really any industry, but especially this one.
John McNamara with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. We've touched on quite a few topics, but what else do you want the listeners and the viewers to know about your efforts, and what can they do to try to help support what you guys are trying to get done as well?
I think in terms of what they can do to help, it's even if it's takeout, it's, plan to eat out maybe once a week. Or if you do go to a restaurant, sit down, wear your mask until you sit down. If you have to get up, put your mask back on, and simply understand that, nobody's done this before. Everyone's, trying to figure this out as they go. So, if a server asks you to put a mask on, do it. If a host asks you to do it. But just go out there and enjoy your restaurants where you used to go before this. They want you to come. They're doing everything they can to make this as safe as possible out there. And hopefully by April, May, this is all a memory.
Yeah, I think we all thought it was going to be a memory by now as well, and it's not. It's gonna be with us for a while, like you said. Let's touch on the mask issue quickly before we let you go. I know in the beginning there were a lot of issues and a lot of pushback from customers. Is it kind of died down? Because I think what makes it harder for the restaurant is people are saying, "Oh, so what difference does it make if I'm wearing a mask from here to my seat, which is 2 feet away from the door?"
We're seeing less of it. We're still seeing some of it. And, as it gets later and people might have, a few beverages, it tends to get, they tend to get more lax. But, your mask is your cost of admission right now. And if you want to go and hang out with your friends inside or, go out there and hopefully watch the Spartans go green in the future, you're just going to have to do it. It's the way it's got to be. So, if you can't do that, stay home.
John McNamara with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. We have about 3 minutes left here with you. Anything you want to share with the public to any other initiatives that you have going on?
I think, right now, while we have our Don't Leave the Michigan Hospitality Industry Out in the Cold, you can go to our website there. It has an infographic as well as a press release that says, these are the things we're asking for. These are the things we need. But just to reiterate, I mean, if we don't see some sort of increased indoor capacity and or the ability to winterize some patios, you're going to see 5,000, which is roughly a third of the restaurants in this state, go away and not come back. And that's going to be tens, if not, hundreds of thousands of jobs that, just aren't going to be there. And 51% of the meals in this country are provided by a restaurant. So if you lose a third of them, all of a sudden you're going to see a run on the grocery stores, and the supply chain just won't be there to support it. So while dining out is a treat, and while most people like to do it, myself included, restaurants also do just provide an incredible public service that a lot of the time is overlooked.
John McNamara, thank you so much for being with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. We always appreciate you coming on and keeping us up to date as to what's happening with the industry. It's so important. It's so vital to the state of Michigan and our overall economy as well.
Thanks for having me. I'll come back anytime.